Chad, Nico's camp screwed himself.
Completely. And the crazy thing about this is, Hutton, the University of Tennessee football program is going to be fine. They're going to be worse in 2025. But after this year, they've got the number one recruit in America coming in to play quarterback.
Yeah.
Josh Heupel has won at a high clip. They're going to continue on and be just fine. The sad part about this is because of bad representation on Nico's camp, I'm not so sure he's going to be fine.
Nico Iamaleava, he is officially to the West Coast. He is a UCLA Bruin. He's committed there after entering the portal. No showing at Tennessee practice. Put out a statement saying that he enjoyed his time at Tennessee, gave his all, which I like as just a tongue-in-cheek gesture that anyone would say is like just the catchphrase. And gave my all. Sure, you did. I say this: his father gave his all to get him more money. It didn't work out. Presumably, we don't know what he's getting paid.
It didn't work out. I mean, I think all reports are that I've seen. We're not going to know the exact figure. Just like we never really got the exact reporting what he was making exactly at Tennessee. But
the reports are between 2.2 and 2.5.
Yeah,
though. We know that.
Yeah, we know it's around there. This one,
and we know that Tennessee was okay paying that.
Right. This one has come to 1.4, 1.5 million is what I've heard at the top, which is far less when you consider California taxes that he's now going to have to deal with. So it was 13%. a bad financial gambit by Nico in this one. My journey at UT has come to an end. Well, on his statement. The decision was incredibly difficult and truthfully not something I expected to make this soon, but I trust God's timing and his father's apparently, and I believe he's leading me where I need to be and his dad. Even though this chapter is ending, a new chapter has begun, and I am committed to UCLA. I mean, that was the statement was sort of the PR firm shorthand version of, just thank everybody, be very grateful to your coaches and teammates and fans, and move forward. That was probably the one bit of good advice he received in all of this, was to announce that way and be classy in the departure after the fact. But the bottom line is that I can't think of many instances where a young athlete has hurt themselves as much as Nico has in this whole situation. And it's all because of bad representation. So now we know the finish line. We still, and we're going to talk about it, we still don't know exactly where Tennessee's going in the portal for quarterback, but they got 2 scholarship quarterbacks that are going to compete for the starting job, and they're going to add someone who's at least going to be able to compete for that starting job, if not be handed that starting job. But where Nico has now landed is at UCLA, a decidedly worse football program that has a worse projection for the upcoming season. He's going to make a lot less money, and he is going to be taxed on not just his income that he's going to make, but also the ability to develop as a quarterback the way he could have done in year 2 playing in Josh Heupel's system. Every single quarterback that played in year 2 for Josh Heupel sees an uptick, especially at receiver. Receivers get better in year 2. Quarterbacks get better in year 2. Once you start to get a better handle and understanding of his system, and Nico's going to miss out on that. He was there for a year while he set. He got to play for a year. It was a successful year that ended with Tennessee in the first ever 12-team college football playoff. But there's nothing successful about how this story ends with Nico at Tennessee. And it's all just a huge cautionary tale, Hutton, of what not to do and how not to make decisions.
Well, think about the transfer portal and the decisions there. How not to make decisions, this is it. But also consider, if you're going to make this decision, transfer in the early portal window, not the late one. Because it doesn't matter if it's UCLA and the schedule that they're facing and the taxes and all. UCLA, the other team's programs mentioned that they apparently were trying to get into the portal recruitment. Notre Dame, Oregon, Texas Tech, there are others. No matter what program could have been interested, the decision to then bolt and then do the cram over the course of the next couple of months to get ready for the season is difficult, man. No matter if you like the offense that you're in or not, you're not doing your new offense much good if you are just jumping in and trying to, hey, my name's Nico, good to meet you, man. I'm here to lead. It doesn't work like that, and it doesn't work if you are entering any program like that, especially over a course of a couple months going into fall camp after you've already tried to build up the foundation of the spring. It tears down the the foundation isn't necessarily blown up by what a coach is building over the spring, but the brick and mortar certainly can be taken down. And it's hard to build that up in rapid fire over the course of a couple of practices and a couple of weeks leading up to kickoff at the end of August. I mean, the quarterbacks in the portal as of this past weekend and where they've gone: Carson Beck, John Mateer, Nico Iamaleava, Darian Mensah, Miller Moss, Fernando Mendoza, Jackson Arnold, Jaden Rashada. I mean, Rashada's the only one who hasn't chosen a place. And, oh, by the way, all of those are big names with headed to new teams like Miami, Oklahoma, Duke, Louisville, Indiana, Auburn. The difference is we knew where they were going whenever spring practice rolled around. That's incredibly beneficial for an offensive coordinator and head coach whenever you're inheriting them. Now UCLA's not just bringing in a new quarterback, they're out the one that they've invested a lot of time in. Because you got to have the money to come up with it.
Well, and this is where it gets tricky again, Hutton. So Joey Aguilar, there was a lot of speculation about what he was going to end up doing because he was paid $1 million to come from Appalachian State to UCLA. Clearly, UCLA saw Nico as an upgrade. After
from
spring
Boone,
practice,
LA is quite the...
Yeah, Boone, North Carolina to Los Angeles, and now maybe to Knoxville. Next for Joey Aguilar. We could see a legitimate trade here of two quarterbacks, with Nico headed to UCLA and Aguilar going to Knoxville. That's the crazy part of all this. They had to clear salary, essentially, to get Nico. So when they tell the quarterback room, Joey Aguilar included at UCLA, we're bringing in Nico, the hope is that he leaves because they've committed $1 million to him. He could have called their bluff and said, oh, I got a legitimate chance to start here, like you said, then I'll stay and collect my check, and then you can pay him whatever you want, and I'm not going to leave. Well, as of about 5 minutes ago, he's entered the transfer portal officially. He's talking to Tennessee, among other schools. I think Wake Forest included also in that list of schools he's talking to. So this is one we'll track closely, but this could, in a very strange way, and again, could be another referendum on Nico in the end. Imagine if Joey Aguilar goes to Tennessee, works his way into being the starter, and has a big season with the Vols on a better team than UCLA. And Nico struggles behind a bad offensive line and that system at UCLA. And the dude that UCLA didn't even want because they wanted to take Nico goes on to have a better season. It's possible. It's also possible Nico goes and balls out at UCLA. We don't know. That's also a possibility, but Joey Aguilar named to watch now in the portal.
That story unwritten. Look, and
by the way, Trey Wallace got a lot of good info on this at OutKick.com too. He's got a big story on it.
Chances are they both suck. I mean, that's what I would bet on. 200, I've got the number here. 238 quarterbacks entered the portal this year. 238. And you want to know why quarterback play sucks at the NFL level? Because they don't get developed. They're not around long enough for a coach or a program to actually develop around them. And you're given a crash course with this a little time spent, as we're seeing now amongst college quarterbacks with their coaches, to actually see true development, and not just on the field, but off the field. You know, leadership qualities, behind-the-scenes aspects, the intangibles. That doesn't happen anymore. And if it does, I don't think it's happening if you're joining a college program in May and you're starting by the end of August. I don't think teammates gravitate towards that unless you just come out and you start winning because you're playing a simple schedule, and then you gradually earn your way into the trust and the dominance that a true number one quarterback would have in college football. But, Chad, by and large, I mean, of the 238 quarterbacks, I mean, some are out of necessity. You know, some are not ranked in the portal, you know, top rankings. There'd be a 0-star. That's the total number, though, in Division I. As of April the 17th, 238. Some of them are already, of course, with new teams. But that's not good.
No.
And by the way, those same guys, if they want, if they're eligible, they can enter the portal again next year. Nico probably enter the portal again next year.
I keep thinking, Hutton, think about like the Steve McNair from Alcorn State, Joe Flacco at Delaware, you know, for the bulk of his career, Tony Romo at Eastern Illinois over the course of his career. Like, think about those guys now that actually stayed at one place or were there for a while And even if it's at a smaller level, they got developed in one system and developed as a quarterback. Think of now Tony Romo as a commodity on the open market as the leading passer at Eastern Illinois when big schools catch wind of him and they want to bring him in as a transfer. So now Tony Romo is going to make a decision based on money and playing at a higher level, which could turn out great for him and his pro prospects. But as you said, it could also come at the detriment and the risk of him not developing because he's going into a completely different system. These quarterbacks are not asking as much about how can I be developed for the next level or become a better quarterback. Instead, they're just asking, what can X school do for me? And how can I benefit from that?
And if you're the program, how do you, I mean, what's realistic now to get him ready? It's the crash course. You know, it's the check with me on the sidelines where we give you the signal. You don't have time to actually, you know, put in actual full offensive cadence and rhythm and call the play in the huddle. That's not happening anymore.
No.
It's always the check with me. And I mean, that's what you have to do. That's where we are now with all of it. So Joey Aguilar is...
It's a completely different game. Like, it feels like a different sport now, NFL and college, when you talk about the quarterback position at times.
So Joey Aguilar in the portal, Tennessee, we know, have the money to pay him if they want to overpay, which is what they did and what programs will do if they need a player. I mean, if they want him, don't they just pay him? Just pay him more than what the other programs at this point can?
Yeah, look, yes, there's something to that. I would also say...
Just because they need that guy?
They need a guy to come in that can... Like, you're looking at two different tiers, right? Okay, let's give two examples, because this is another name who keeps getting thrown out. I don't know how much legitimacy there is to it or not, but Luke Altmaier led America in comebacks last year at Illinois as a starting quarterback, okay? There's a lot of smoke around him possibly talking to Tennessee, talking to others through his representation, and maybe leaving Illinois. So Luke Altmaier, to me, is a guy who, if Tennessee pays him, I don't know what the number would be, $2 million, 1.5, he's a starter. You're bringing him in to get him acclimated to the offense and start for you in 2025 for 1 year as a veteran guy. That's the play there if you're Tennessee. Joey Aguilar, he had a nice 2023 at App State. His numbers fell off a cliff in 2024 along with App State, who went, I think, 5-6, 5-7 a year ago. And he ends up transferring to UCLA, and he got good money at UCLA to transfer. He's a good player. He's a good talent. I don't think Joey Aguilar is your day one starter when you pay him to come. So how much is that worth to you? Is it $500,000? Is it the $1 million he was making at UCLA? Maybe it is. I don't think it's $2 million. And just like Tennessee stood on integrity and said, hey, we would like for Nico to be our quarterback because he knows the system and he's been here for a year, but he's not $4 million worth of a quarterback. Hell, he wasn't $2.5 million worth of a quarterback last year, but that's what we paid him. We're certainly not going to pay him more. They stood on integrity. They stood on business, to quote someone on that one. Would they do the same in a bit more of a desperate situation with Joey Aguilar if they don't think he's worth that? I don't know.
I don't want to say stood on integrity. They stood on business. But they were willing to pay him 2.2 to 2.5 to do exactly what he was doing and put up with his dad.
Yeah.
They were willing to do that. And
right.
Standing on integrity would not be reaching out to Josh Hoover to do the exact same thing at TCU.
Well, they stood on integrity in that they were fine with the current setup, but once he started asking for more money, it was a bridge too far.
Right, but they would be the school then that would be paying Hoover, hypothetically, more to leave TCU, which apparently he turned down, as the report. Like, how much did he really turn down? Okay, the Ben Crawford here. Tennessee reportedly tried to coax TCU starting quarterback Josh Hoover to the portal. Reps declined the lucrative offer. I mean, again, if you're standing on integrity, you don't do that. Stand on business. By the way, I would stand on business here too. This is the business of college football. This is not the integrity of the sport. Yeah. So this is just the price of doing business here. And the price of doing business for Nico Iamaleava is you're going somewhere where you're probably going to suck. That's the price he's got to pay now. He didn't have any suitors. I would like to know where would Aguilar be on the list of, where are they on their list of needing that guy? You know, like, it's we've got to get this. This is our floor. We've got to have this guy come in, because Hoover would have been plug and play. He would have been exactly what I'm saying you don't really want in football is right after spring practice, you're developing two other quarterbacks, and you're going to pay someone else to come in and immediately start and be your leader. I just don't think it works like that. Not at this level. Not when the demand is greatness. The demand on Josh Heupel is greatness. That's his bar. He's held to that standard. He's got to hold the quarterbacks. That's why you need the plug and play. But is it realistic? No. It's a loss for everybody in that regard. I'm surprised the guy turned it down, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a difficult pull. Like, it's not – if you're at TCU, they have money at TCU. We know that. They got money to spend at that school. So, I mean, he could have just played it perfectly and said, man, I got a school that's offering a number that I'm not making right now, and just got them to match that. And he's like, I'd rather stay here because I know the offense and teammates and all that, and got them to match at TCU. I don't know exactly how much was offered and what went down. I guarantee you that through Spire Sports in Knoxville, they have contacted about 25 quarterbacks. Yeah. At 25 different schools, and just started the conversation with their agent. They probably contacted one agency to get to 15 of those quarterbacks and started to gauge if anyone was interested in leaving. And then I think some of the rumors and that's out there is just, well, the ones who didn't immediately say, no, I'm happy where I am, suddenly start to hear rumors about maybe they're going to Tennessee, when in fact it could all just be part of the negotiation with their current school to get more money. This is a tough time to convince a college quarterback that's smart, that's not Nico Iamaleava's camp, in other words, to leave their current situation as the starting quarterback of that power school to go somewhere else and start from scratch in late April, May.
Yeah, it's the timing of it now.
The timing is tough.
Because you can find quarterbacks that will leave their starting position. Normally that's in December and January. And that's where it's going to be damning for any. I mean, at this point, Tennessee's almost. I mean, you go in, you want to create competition in camp. At this point, you're left with it is going to be a true competition in camp. Like it's not a farce. I'm believing that it is. Like if you bring in Hoover, it's like, oh, we're going to create competition with the guys that are here. No. That guy's plug and play.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, the guys who've been mentioned, Avery Johnson, Rocco Beck, Luke Altmaier, those dudes are plug and play. Sawyer Robertson from Baylor. You don't leave a Big Ten or a Big 12 starting job to go to Tennessee unless you're pretty damn certain you're going to be the starting quarterback.
Right.
You're not going there to get in a battle and lose. Joey Aguilar, I mean, I think you're going into battle with Jake Merklinger for the starting job if you're him, and you know it's going to be a battle. And, I mean, it was Tulane's involved in Aguilar. What, you said Wake Forest, I believe? Wake Forest, another one, yeah. I mean, those are the programs that Nico was knocking on the door of whenever they realized that they had overplayed their hand. Those are programs that have some money. They don't have Tennessee money. That's why I see this list. The Joey Aguilar from. Then this is Pete Naco saying Tennessee, Tulane, and Wake Forest. I mean, Tennessee wants Aguilar to come in and play. Just pay him a bit more. They can. So I don't think Tulane's got money, but that's not like they can step up and pay what Tennessee was paying. No, if you think he's a starter, then you outbid. Yeah. But I just, if I'm Tennessee, I would be very smart about, unless it's a no-brainer, let's go give Nico's money to this guy because he's that good and he's going to start. Which they tried, but it doesn't sound like they can. I don't know that they're going to be able to do that. If you don't do that, then I would pinch pennies a bit on this, because you can keep going down the list and get someone who is fine being a depth piece that's got college experience. He may have played at the Group of Five level, right? He may have the FCS level. He may have been a backup somewhere and lost out on a job. I don't know, but someone who started somewhere before, you just want to go get that experience. Well, what does it say too, Chad, about the other quarterbacks on the current roster? I don't know what it says at all because they haven't made a move yet. Well, they're going to, though. We know they will. Yeah, but here's what I'll say to it. If they pay $2.5 million to Luke Altmaier, it doesn't say much about Jake Merklinger. If they pay $500,000 to a backup, then it says they have all the faith in the world in Jake Merklinger. Do you see what I'm saying? But Aguilar, so the next move will signify what they think about the quarterbacks. That's true. Aguilar, though, he wants to go somewhere where he's going to flourish at this point. It'll be his third team. I wouldn't go where I know I'm at best competing for the starting job. I mean, my guess is he could go and play at Tulane or Wake Forest and be the starter. And to choose, again, I'm basing off of, let's just say the money's the same. I guess I would want to go play where
could play instead of just be another guy. But man, I think it tells a lot about the pressure on Heupel and the decision that he made to part ways with Nico, because they can say anything they want to now about, coach made the right call. It comes down to game day. And are you winning? Are you losing? And it's not if you lose, it's how you lose. How are you developing these quarterbacks? I'm saying there's no quick fix, but I go back to Bama. Well, a year ago at this time, I'm hearing from Bama fans and big money boosters. They're like, we're going to be okay. Saban, he's out. Like 4 losses, yeah, but that's realistic. It's going to be. I mean, after the second loss of the season, people were demanding. We were saying, maybe we got a 1-and-done coach. He's just not cut out for it. That's just kind of the emotional reaction to things. Where and let me also say, if Nico starts playing well, that also factors into it. No matter how things are handled or how things were handled back in April by him and his camp, this comes down to what are we doing versus the expectation. And you get, even if it's one season, this is still a setback that you have to overcome. And they're paying a lot of, the money being paid for other players too is also, you got to follow up on that as well. If this is a roster of talent, overcome some maybe poor play from an inexperienced quarterback. And if Nico's just good, not great, how bad can the other backup options be? Especially if I'm hearing that they're out playing the guy in spring practice. I think I'm being fair to that. I hate to say that UCLA's quarterback who they didn't want in favor of a quarterback who's just okay.
No, it's not an upgrade.
But not an upgrade, but if you get him, then you have to do something with that.
Yeah, I think if Tennessee tried to argue, or Tennessee fans are arguing, this is an upgrade.
Not an upgrade.
It's not an upgrade. UCLA chose Nico over this guy after seeing him for an entire spring. But again, it's almost like a refund. They wanted a refund.
I'm being ruthless in this. If it's about winning, it's the business of football, not the integrity of college football. That sucks to say. But I can't just go grab a quarterback because we need another scholarship quarterback and we'll just roll the dice and see who wins the battle. I need a favorite going into August.
Well, here's what you need.
I want to have some confidence.
Yeah, I think here's what you need out of Josh Heupel this year. 2021 Josh Heupel. 2021 Josh Heupel took the job and in year one exceeded everybody's expectations by having the season he did and scoring the points he did in that year, right?
Yeah.
With Joe Milton and then eventually Hendon Hooker. That year, they exceeded everybody's expectations. Do it again. Like, expectations are now lowered for Tennessee football. Show us how good of an offensive coach you are. You've had Jake Merklinger there for 2 years. It's going to be 2 years by the time it starts. Like, get something out of him. Get the true freshman ready to play. Bring in a depth piece or another quarterback. See how quickly you can get him up to speed. Bring along these receivers. Offensive line should be okay. Like, we're going to see how – and I think Josh Heupel's a great coach. We're going to see how good of a coach he is this year because this is a huge challenge now. I don't think anybody's looking at 2025 and thinking they're going to go right back to the college football playoff this year, given all the circumstances around the program. But Tennessee fans are also not going to be okay, as we talked about, quote-unquote, standing on integrity when they're 5-7. They're going to be pissed. And they're going to be super pissed if Nico has a good season at UCLA, and they don't. Right? Then there's going to be a lot of second-guessing about everybody involved at that point. So Tennessee fans can say hooray all they want right now, and I get it. I agree with them.
Me too.
But come November, it's not going to matter.
And I agree with the decision that Heupel made here.
Yeah.
But this may be the most surprising aspect of this entire saga has been the fact that it does feel like Tennessee didn't expect this to happen. And this is a program that's been at the forefront and seen things before they happen in NIL, with negotiations, with paying quarterbacks, with whatever, because Joe Milton comes to mind. The fact that they reportedly knew that he was testing the waters, I think they figured out that he was going to hit the portal anyway, no matter what. And to not have that surefire lock-in, we're replacing you with this for the same amount, and it can be an upgrade because it was good money, by the way. I'm surprised by that, quite frankly. If you're picking up the phone and you're like, okay, we're negotiating with reps now, we want you. Tennessee's always been, I'd say always, it's been a very short amount of time we've been in this new era. But Tennessee's been the program that's been like, we want you, we're going to outpay others for you. There's a number everyone has a price on. And I get ruthless. They're not willing to pay Nico $4 million. There are quarterbacks they're willing to pay $4 million to. They're willing to pay Nico 2.2.
Yeah, I don't know who that quarterback would be, though, again, given the short time frame. Like, if it was December and Nico opted out, there's a bunch of guys they might pay $4 million to.
I don't know what they think about their backup.
Yeah, but just getting someone ready that quick, if that quick of a turnaround is going to be tough. So, back in December, it would have been that way. TJ Hushmanzada continues to carry water for Nico's camp because I think he's close to the family, and he's tweeting stuff and putting on there. He's given their side of it.
Okay.
Their side of it says they haven't talked to Spire Sports since January. So this was not about money. Now, I believe that to be true. It was about money. They asked for money from Spire in January.
Yeah.
They said no. And then they went back to work and he started practicing in the spring and all that, and it died down. Now, I will know this for certain next week, Hutton, and be able to report it. I firmly believe Spire was blindsided by the Pete Nakos report. I don't think they thought anything was wrong. It happened so quickly because of the Dan Lanning call to Josh Heupel about your guy is shopping himself to us and others.
His crew.
And he said,
calling.
I'm telling you this because your spring game is 3 days away whenever this is going on. Nakos catches wind of it. He reports it. And then as we know, the shit really hit the fan from that point forward, right? And then he doesn't show up after the report and all that happened. So I do, to your point, yeah, Tennessee usually is on the forefront of this. Yeah. I think they were blindsided.
And
they weren't blindsided in that he wanted to go in the portal after the season and talked about it. That was reported by some that there were negotiations that went on. But those negotiations ended with, hey, man, this is the best place for you. You got a great deal. We're going to honor that deal, but we're not paying any more. And then they just said, okay, and stayed. And then suddenly by the end of spring, they weren't happy.
Well, what was the Nico post on social? He wrote on Instagram about, damn, I tried to sit out and throw the playoff game too. These boys just make me laugh. Ain't no way.
Yeah, him and Navy Schuler.
Yeah.
Heath Schuler's son.
What a great name, by the way. So, I mean, again, it was Josh Pate on Pate's college football show where he's like, guys like Nico, and he's not the only one, they were trying to renegotiate contracts in the middle of a playoff run. Now, the fair part about the story is Nico practiced and played. And he was practicing during spring practice while this is going on. I'd like to know how much he was actually privy to.
I don't think Nico tried to throw the game, the way some Tennessee fans are saying.
No.
So I think he's, joking and being facetious accurately that he didn't try to throw the game. But he also, at some point, needs to answer a question. Hey, did you say I'm not going to play in the playoff unless you pay me more money? Was that ever a discussion with Tennessee? I would like to know that.
Well, I mean,
because Josh Pate's reporting it.
I'd like Tennessee
and other players
to say
did.
It.
Yeah, somebody can say it.
But the fact is that despite all of that, it seems as though Tennessee was content paying him what he was owed underneath the current deal.
Yeah,
and I know, and I just don't see why that is worth it. If you could just say, this guy wants, okay, peace. And as of, it's just odd the way he was at the positional meeting or whatever the night before he no-shows to practice. Clearly he got a call from his dad that said, you're not going. You're not going to practice. Get on a plane. Head home. And home being UCLA. Stop giving your all. Get home.
Stop throwing those playoff games.
Yes.
Tyler, that's the only reason Ohio State beat Tennessee. Nico threw the game. That's it. We know the culprit now. They all got together and decided to take their shirts off and run down the field as an offensive line. And then Nico decided to throw the game.
Yeah, those sexy bastards.
Put their shirts right back on.
It'll show how in shape they are.
Remember how we talked about how I know on good authority that they were all sick that week?
All sick.
And then they went out there and did that.
They did that, yeah.
They were ill all week in the offensive line room. And they said, what the best thing to do for this illness?
Intimidate them.
Is to take our shirts off. We've got so many Vol fans in the house. We need to show our flabby ass bodies to those Vol fans before this game.
Game day ready.
I will never. If I was a coach, I'd be like, no, we're not doing that. I don't care if you guys think it's a good idea. We're not doing this.
There's tough and then there's stupid.
Yeah, put your undershirts on.
Because it was about the cold, right? It was like we're gonna wear. No.
They also did not look good.
No, they didn't.
They looked, NHL players.
There we go.
Yeah, they were. This is not the one. Now, that's not. I don't think that's an offensive lineman, but one guy looks pretty cut. The rest of them look flabby as hell. You know, NHL players, they call it skinny fat.
I'm talking about Jackson Lampley that way. Look at that
Fat.
farmer's tan on him.
Jackson Lampley looks better than everybody out there. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get into fat shaming on the show, so I'm just going to pass and not point anyone out specifically. But everyone seeing this right now knows exactly who I'm talking about. They see it.
Is that guy in the back right? Yeah, the guy wearing a ski cap so he can't be identified?
I look better I'm 43 years old. I look better shirtless than everybody on there except for one guy.
Second from the back.
That's not good. I'm not a college football player.
Guy in the second row. Smartest guy is the guy in the full sweats. Like, no, screw you guys. I'm not taking my shirt off.
Yeah.
He's probably a starter.
Yeah, or injured. He just happened to be having a good day, so he decided to jog out.